going to say it looked fishy. Do you know what I mean?
It's like you're going to rob a bank. Look. That's what they did. That's what the cowboys did. Gorgeous. Your mum would love a pink mitten, wouldn't she? The trouble is,
Well, I think she'd like to. I think that's acceptable.
What?
I think that's acceptable.
After Christmas.
We've got to do that. That'd be hilarious.
That's so funny. I should do that, shouldn't I? Just love the colour. It's such a happy colour, isn't it?
It's when you look at these. Oh, that sounds wrong. When you look at.
Here's a pink mitten.
And I think I might have just given away what you're getting for your birthday. Thanks, everybody. That was lovely. What?
What? Was that a genuine thing, or?
Been trying really
It looks
hardest. I've been trying my hardest.
good. It looks really good.
And one of the things that we like to eat at this time of year is tatarui.
Oh, stop it.
On the 29th. Welcome to episode 98.
98?
Yes.
Were you waiting for me to do that?
I was. And today we're paying homage to a TV programme which we used to love. And that TV programme was called CSI Miami. With the whole standing on the side and looking. I've even got the right hair colour as well. David Caruso. I'm not red enough, of course.
But no, the other reason we're playing homage...
Hold on.
Right, okay.
Just blow the whole skit. And how are we paying homage to that programme? Well, of course, it's because today we have a colour theme.
We do seem to have a colour theme today.
Every episode of CSI Miami had a colour theme, didn't it?
Yeah, it did.
And we used to guess.
We used to try and guess, because everybody's ties were like the same colour.
It wasn't just that.
There were shirts that were the same colour.
But I'm telling you, they put filters on the cameras.
I think they put filters on it as well. Like some episodes look very orange, and everybody would be wearing orange shirts and orange ties.
But do you know what? I do have a respect for the sort of level of direction and editing that goes into that type of thing. Because that's the type of detail which, you could miss. The thing is, though, in CSI Miami, it was so blatant.
Well, we
couldn't miss it, could you?
We always thought it was, but maybe you wouldn't notice it if you were that engrossed in David Caruso.
Yes.
Who we loved.
Now, today...
He was a legend.
The question is, what is our colour?
Wow, it's not difficult to say.
Can you guess? What could it be? Yes, it's pink.
Pink. Bryony told me I looked like a pink explosion this morning when I came downstairs. She smiled and said...
It's because there's lots of flamingos, and I suppose...
there's flamingos and I've got pink stripes. She did lie. She smiled at the same time.
Yeah.
Wow, Mummy, you look like a pink explosion. Thank you.
I love it.
That is what I aim for on a daily basis.
Now, what a special 2 weeks we've had. It's been Easter.
Yeah.
And I've been literally drowning in chocolate.
Have you?
Well, I have. Because I've been spoiled. Well, you bought me that nice chocolate bar at the place where we're going to be taking you later.
Yeah.
Yes, today, the New Adventures of the Bakery Bears is back. And we will be exploring a lost castle and also finding out all about Beatrix Potter. Which is just unbelievable, actually, when you look at the amount of twists and turns that happened in her life that led her to the point of effectively securing the Lake District.
She did,
for all of us.
Yeah, she did.
I mean, what a wonderful thing to do, to have, that successful literary career off the back of the inspiration of the Lake District, that she then reinvested in the Lake District.
And even harder for her in that era when, women authors were very much frowned upon, I think, weren't they?
Yeah.
And it wasn't her dad didn't take it as a serious occupation.
Well,
initially, I think, and her mum certainly didn't.
We're going to find out exactly what happened, because she took it around all the publishing houses of London, and they all said no.
Yeah.
And then a bloke took it, and one of them said yes.
Yeah.
Terrible. But that's to come later. It's amazing. But you also got me a lovely chocolate bar from Lowther Castle.
Oh, yeah.
And that's really, really nice too.
Oh, good.
I've actually finished that one.
You had that box of lint as well.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
You bought yourself that, I think.
No. You said...
I didn't buy it.
We were in the supermarket. You said pick something.
Oh, did I?
For Easter food.
Okay.
So look around, and I always look, for the best value. Best value, yes, you want quality, but also you want quantity.
Well, you want quantity.
So I was looking at this box, and compared it and looked really good value. It was a Lindt. It was a desserts box, so they were all based on desserts.
Yeah.
And I thought, there's 2 trays. So ate through the 2 trays. There was a third.
There was a third level.
And I didn't even realise.
He was very excited.
Until I'd finished. Now, that's like finding a £20 note in your wallet that you didn't know was there.
It is,
It's right up there. Do you know what? In fact, I think it's better. Because you think you're finished and then,
another layer.
There's a whole other layer. So I was loving it. Forget all of that because, ladies and gentlemen, it's time to rewrite the stars.
Oh, we're going to talk about
The
it.
Greatest Showman. The greatest movie in the history of the world.
Oh, stop it.
Isn't it?
Dan hasn't even seen it.
Is it
Dan
the greatest film?
refused to go and see it with me and Bryony. Right, okay. Bryony had been going on for weeks that she wanted to see this film. And I didn't think she was really serious because all we'd done was say what a load of old rubbish we thought it would be. We saw the trailer, actually, when we went to see Murder in the Orient Express. The trailer was on, can you remember? And we both looked at each other and went, what is that about? A kind of pop musical thing about Barnum. Don't like circuses. Barnum apparently was a very unpleasant man, and the thought of pop music in that sort of era was just, the whole thing seemed silly. So I took her to see it the first week of the Easter holidays. And I sat there, and at first I'm like, yeah, okay. And then sort of going all the way through it, and then I'm kind of like tapping my foot along and thinking, actually, I don't know if I quite like this. And it finished, and Bryony just looked at me and she went, I loved it. Like this. And I think I was just kind of stopping myself. I think I was I'd convinced myself that I wouldn't like it. So I came out thinking, yeah, maybe it was a bit silly. But actually then when I thought about it, I thought, you know what? It's just a happy film. It just made me feel happy. And yes, the story isn't accurate.
That was a lot of emotions to go through in the time it took you to get in the car. Because by the time you got in the car, you were just going, that was amazing.
But yes, it was. It was very much sort of an emotional roller coaster because, like I said, I was convinced that I'd convinced myself that I wouldn't like it. I thought it was silly. The thing that I didn't really enjoy about it was the story is incorrect. That's not how it happened. And if you only need to Wikipedia Barnum, and it will go into detail about what actually happened with Jenny Lind, for example. But if you take that out of it, you just have to sort of detach yourself from the fact that it's based on a true story, but isn't really what happened. It's just kind of fun, and the songs are very catchy. They're very poppy and very catchy. And yes, we came home and we downloaded the album and we went to see the film again the next week. So we went again was it last week? Yeah, last week. And we do both really love it. And I think it's just, once I'd kind of detached myself from the fact that, I just had to pretend it was a made-up story. And if it was a made-up story, if they hadn't given him the name of Barnum, it would be more, I would have accepted it more.
Yeah.
If it was just some random person's life kind of thing. But it did have a huge impact on me, actually. I wasn't expecting it at all.
Which you've written about at length.
I did.
And that was the other momentous thing that's happened in the last couple of weeks. Issue 10 of Knitability came out.
Yeah.
And Kay's article is called Rewrite My Stars.
Yes. Yeah, so
she's like Russell Grant.
If you haven't seen it and if you were thinking along the lines of me, then I would just say, do you know what? Just watch it, because you never know. You might get something unexpected out of it, which is what happened.
Happy movie escapism.
Very happy, very, very much an escapism film, and you can happily sing along
and it's a massively positive thing when. I suppose this was always going to happen after La La Land was a success. Because that's for another time.
Okay.
But after La La Land was a success, there's always going to be more, isn't there? Once studios know. And I think what we both hope now is that they start to look back at some of the old classics and remake them. Because just imagine Calamity Jane.
Yeah, Hugh Jackman, I've got to say, Hugh Jackman made it for me. He is fantastic. His voice is just amazing. And all the other cast as well, the singing was really great.
But what would be lovely to see now would be, some of the old classics remade. I would just love, I'd be the first in the line to go see something like Calamity Jane, filmed actually out in the West. And maybe, with some of the iconic backdrops, let's have them in Monument Valley and
I'm sure
or Oklahoma, which of course Hugh Jackman.
Never bothered about Oklahoma actually.
It's because the film was too old. You've tried to watch the film before, and you found it just a little bit too old. If Howard Keel had been in it, and not whoever it was, Donald McRae, was it?
Gordon
McRae. Then perhaps, because I really like Oklahoma. I think there's some just great songs in it. But Seven Brides as well.
Seven Brides is fantastic.
There's so many classics which haven't. When you look at the amount of films which get remade, which are maybe such a short time apart from each other, I'd love to see some of the old ones remade. The next one that's coming out, I think, is going to be Lady Gaga in A Star Is Born. The thing that I saw, though, it was a cool couple of weeks because Kay saw The Greatest Showman, which had such a profound effect on her and also on Brian as well, which is just lovely. It's lovely for me, to sort of be around and to see. But then for me, it was the Jesus Christ Superstar.
Oh, yeah. Gosh, that's amazing.
John Legend. It was so good.
Oh, my goodness.
Goodness me. I mean, it's the musical which, it inspired me to want to take up drumming. I didn't anticipate.
It's a musical like no other, though, because there's no words. It's all singing.
It's an opera. Effectively.
Oh, right.
Effectively, it's a rock opera.
Right.
The first time I saw that, I was about 7, and it was the movie, and my mum put it on, and she said that I just sat there with my jaw on the floor all the way through it, and then at the end of it, I said, I want to be a drummer. And the rest, as they say, is history. And I hadn't seen it in a long time. And the last time I really had my head in it was the last time I played it, which was 2010. And so to put it on and for it to affect me in the way that it did was just lovely. It's similar, to what happened with you and The Greatest Showman. So it's been a very positive couple of weeks with regards to the music.
Yeah.
Now, the weather is beginning to turn. In the summer, you eat differently, don't you, to when you're in the winter. In the winter, you'll maybe have a stew and warming things. In the summer, you want slightly different things.
You want lighter things.
And one of the things that we like to eat at this time of year is tatarui.
Oh, stop it. Look, I'd had a very stressful conversation on the phone with the bank. I was asking them to do something that they should have done 2 months ago and they didn't do. And it was a simple thing. Apparently nobody in the world can help me these days in a bank. But anyway, I'd had this very stressful conversation and I came off the phone and I was like, what do you want for your tea today? And you said, can we have chicken with...
What did you say?
I
said I don't mind.
You said you don't mind. And
Whatever's
I said,
easiest.
maybe I'll roast that chicken. I'll do some tatarui.
It's a new Greek dish.
Ratatouille, obviously. But now, forever and a day, it's going to be known in the house as tatarui.
I think we need to develop something called tatarui. And speaking of food, it's been absolutely wonderful to see so many of your beautiful spotted dicks appearing on Instagram.
Yes.
With such a wide variation as well on ingredients going in.
Oh, really?
Some people had used coconut.
Yeah, a lot of people have made them sort of gluten-free and dairy-free.
And they all look...
Yeah, they all look really
perfectly
nice.
acceptable.
Yeah.
So, I'd have loved to have tried them.
Yeah.
And of course, we will be back. And I'm so excited about this because I love lemons. And it's got lots of lemon in it, hasn't it?
I think so.
Yeah.
I can't remember the recipe off the top of my head.
We'll be back next episode with Winifred pudding. And it is a pudding unlike any other.
It's a single crust. It's not got a crust over the top. So I'm not quite sure what you'd call that, really.
Well,
I don't think you'd class it as a pie, would you?
No. Well, it's called Winifred pudding, which is why it's going in the pudding club. And we'll be making that next episode. But this is, of course, a knitting podcast. And it's time for us to find out, Kay Jones, what's on your needles?
I'm working on a lovely pair of socks. I resisted casting these on because I just thought it's just an indulgent project, which sounds ridiculous, doesn't it? Really,
It does when we consider we're talking about knitting.
I know, and everything you do really should. I think it should feel like an indulgence because it's our hobby, isn't it? And it's what we love to do. I don't know whether I like the thought of it being called a hobby actually, because it's not really a hobby, is it? For a lot of us,
It's a lifestyle.
It's a lifestyle, and it's a therapy, and it's all kinds of things to different people, I think. But anyway, I kept a skein of yarn back when I dyed up this colourway the last time because I just loved it. And it was in a mini skein set first. It was in the Prisoner of Azkaban mini skein set. So I had used a little bit of it in Bryony's scrappy socks that I made her, and I just absolutely loved it. I didn't expect to actually when I dyed it up. Thought it would be nice, but I didn't expect to sort of be absolutely bonkers over it like I was when I started knitting with it. So I dyed up some full skeins in the last update, and I kept one for myself on the sparkle base because that's my favourite. And it's the Sirius colourway. And I just thought, oh, do you know what? I'm gonna start knitting a pair of socks. So I have, and I cast these on a couple of nights ago. And at first I just thought I'd do just a plain sock, and then I thought, maybe I'll do prairie socks, my prairie socks pattern, because I haven't knit that for a while. And I do like a sock that sort of keeps me going, and I do find that if it's just got a little bit of something going on, it goes much quicker than just a plain sock, because I think you notice your progression a bit more. So I cast it on, and I'm a good way down the leg.
Cool.
And it's a speckly colourway, as you can see, and it's got black in it. And then there's also two other colours of it's this sort of purple actually, because I've got a mini of it. It's like I don't know how you describe that sort of purple. It's a dusky sort of purple, isn't it? So there's the speckles of that, and then there's also speckles of a kind of greeny gold colour. And you come across them, they're just little speckles of them. So you come across them every now and again, and you'll have 1 or 2 stitches in the sort of speckly colour, and it's just lovely. You're probably not picking up the colours that are in there on the screen, but it's just super pretty. If I show you in the skein, you can probably see the little flecks a bit more. And it's just so nice to knit because, you'll have a few stitches of just the sort of background, it's sort of like a steely grey, and then all of a sudden you'll get like a few stitches of a dark, the dark colour, and then, there's a little purple one there and a sort of goldy one there. It's just really lovely. And I had this mini, I've no idea why I've got it. I can't remember why I dyed it up, but it does pick up the purples in there, but I just don't know if it's too stark of a contrast for a heel. I haven't decided yet. I might just do the whole sock.
I don't think it's a stark contrast.
Do you not?
No.
Do you think that'd be nice?
Yeah.
It's
I don't think it's a
same-
strong enough for purple for it to be a stark contrast.
No, it's the same purple.
That's in it.
Or very similar if it's not exactly the same. I think this is blended colours actually.
Right.
I don't think it's just one dye colour.
Right.
But it's very similar.
I think it might be a nice breakup, actually.
Of that. And I think this colourway actually I don't think I ever did this for the shop, but I think in my head I called it Hogwarts at Dusk. I don't know, it just reminds me, you get that colour, don't you, at dusk, the purples.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm just knitting a prairie sock, and I'm using my lovely stitch marker Progress Keeper that Melly Bella sent me. If you can see, it's a Deathly Hallows symbol with a little pink jewel, because she knows I like pink. So that was perfect.
And of course, that's some prizes, isn't it?
Yes,
For one of the upcoming...
Yeah. There's a set of Melissa's stitch markers as a prize for the knit along that we'll talk about in Endy Bits.
And Melissa is also, of course, featured in
Yes.
Knitability that just came out, as I mentioned earlier on.
So I'm just doing 64 stitches, 2.25 millimetres on the ChowGoo mini twist, which is, to be honest, it's the only needles that I knit socks on now. I don't use any other circulars, I don't think. I'm pretty sure. And I've not had any issues with this. They do sometimes come untwisted, but that might be after I've knit a whole pair of socks. one of them might come loose, because that happened with yours, I think, recently. I think I'd knit the whole one of Dan's socks, and when I cast on the next one, it was loose. But I just tighten it with those higher rubber grips, and it's fine. Although I still don't know why they're not fixed.
No.
It should be a fixed circular. I don't know why they're interchangeables, really.
There will be a reason, won't there?
Well, I'm sure there must be a reason.
It'd be interesting to know what it is.
I can't understand. I can't fathom what the reason might be. No. Super lovely,
I
relaxing project.
I do find it interesting with colours and with how different people see them, and also how different people use them. Because you can do so much, can't you? I mean, you
can, and
from a distance.
From a distance, this yarn just looks.
But then you get closer.
Grey. I mean, there isn't a grey dye in there.
I think there's so much more to be said for, sometimes it is really nice to have bright and sparkly, but actually, for normal, regular, everyday wear, I would much prefer to have something which draws you in and you're like, oh my goodness. Like you were saying a minute ago, where you're knitting away and then suddenly,
it is. And because, knitting is a close-up work, isn't it? And I know a lot of people don't necessarily look at their knitting whilst they're knitting. I hear this an awful lot. People are watching TV or they're driving in the car. They're not driving, you know what I mean, they're a passenger. So they're more looking out of the window and knitting. But I always look at my knitting. I don't know that it's ever been a thought of mine that I want to knit without looking at my work, because that's part of the joy for me.
Yeah, and I suppose
especially when you've got a nice yarn, it's not a solid yarn, you want to look at the colours changing. And
it's going to come down to that age-old conversation of what type of knitter are you?
Yeah.
Are you product-driven or are you process-driven? If you're a product-driven...
Still don't really know what I am, but...
Wait, maybe you're a bit of both.
Maybe I'm a bit of both.
Maybe there are... Well, there's bound to be, isn't there? There's bound to be some people who are a bit of both. Some people who are all about the product. Some people are all about the process. And perhaps, at times through your knitting career, you're going to change. But a product-driven knitter is going to be all about the speed and not really going to give a monkeys about looking at the actual fabric. So they can sit and watch the telly, they can knit like crazy, and then go, bang, there's a pair of socks.
I mean, it's useful to be able to do that, isn't it?
Well, it depends.
Just lately, especially as well, it's been like a meditative thing to do, my knitting. And to do that, I think you really need to be in that moment, don't you? And be focusing on what you're doing. And if you're actually doing something else at the same time, I know a lot of people read as well whilst they're knitting. I think sometimes it's good just to be doing one thing.
I think what it comes down to is knowing yourself and knowing what's right for you at that moment.
Yeah.
If the right thing for you at that moment is to churn out a pair of socks whilst watching a film,
absolutely.
go for it.
Yeah.
But just make sure that every so often you don't do that. And that you sit and actually look at your knitting and enjoy what you're doing. Lovely.
Dan Jones.
Yes.
What's on your needles?
It's another sock. It is...
Oh, it's pink, look.
I know. Look, it fits with our theme. Yes, I have to look like this. You always used to do that, didn't
My
you?
projects are nearly all in pink bags.
Yes, and there is a certain amount of pink in there. Look. Is that pink or is that raspberry?
That's pink.
Okay, cool. Look, I've neglected this to a certain extent because I've been so focused on the other projects, but I'm on the case now. I want to get this finished. The reason why I want to get this finished is I want to, and I said this in the final Dan and Laura project, I want to knit one pair of fingering weight socks on Magic Loop because I've knit for a year on DPNs and I love them, and I want to see if the Magic Loop socks thing for me is over. I think it is, but maybe it isn't.
I did look. You can't get the mini twists at 2.75 millimeters. I didn't look at the full set of them, but certainly the individual purchase only goes up to 2.5.
Right.
So I've probably got a 2.75 circular.
Right.
I'd be surprised if I didn't.
I'm going to give that a go once I finish this one. But, right now, I am now finally getting on with it. And I just love, I do love fingering weight. Well, it's a plump fingering weight. But it's a really...
It's fingering weight, yeah. It's just it's a nice, like you say, it's a nice...
It feels right. It feels more right than the thicker yarn. I don't know why.
It's funny. I would agree with you, actually. I've knit a lot of DK and worsted weight socks, And they've definitely got their place, and I actually wear them, and you wear them more as like slippers, don't we, in the
Yeah.
winter in the house. But it always never really feels like a real pair of socks that
No.
I'm knitting.
No.
I don't know why that is, because they are, obviously.
I think it's because, you know, we spend our whole lives looking at socks which look more like this
Yeah,
than
yeah.
like that.
Finer
You know what I mean?
fabric.
Yeah. And, you know, I think that, I don't know if I'm speaking for everyone here, but I suspect that there's lots of people who aspire to knit a sock. If they're knitters, they think, I'd really love to knit a sock, but, or, you know, it's tricky. If you're going to do it, you want to do it and feel like you've actually done it. And this most definitely is the first time that I feel like I've actually done it. There is a time and a place, and I'm sure I will knit other, is it DK?
DK.
Yeah, I'm sure I will knit other DK weight ones at times. But, you know, I'm most definitely going to go down to one sock at a time for the foreseeable future.
One pair of socks at
Yeah.
a time, do you mean?
Yeah. I'm not going to have like
'Cause we
multiple
only
ones on the
ever-
go. Because I've
Oh,
got multiple
right.
ones on the go.
No, yeah, I understand what you're saying.
And I really feel like I just want to stick on fingering for a little
Oh,
bit.
right.
Because,
yeah.
you know, it doesn't feel like it, you know, strangely, it doesn't feel like it takes any longer. And I know it is
Isn't it
taking
lovely?
longer.
It's lovely.
I don't know why it doesn't feel like it I mean, it must be taking longer because it's fingering weight.
Oh, yeah.
And there's
it
more
must be
stitches.
It's definitely taking longer.
But it doesn't feel like it is, though, which is strange.
Right.
You know, you would think, wouldn't you, like when you read a really long book? Well, no, interesting point, isn't it? You read a massively long book, if it's a super interesting story, it doesn't feel long, does it? You fly through it. Similarly with a film, if it's super interesting and you're engaged,
Yeah,
you look at your
it's
watch, you
true.
go, oh my goodness, where did the
2
time go?
hours is gone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whereas if you're not completely engaged, if it is a little bit painful,
Yeah.
then that's the time when it does feel like it's dragging.
It's so lovely.
Credit where credit's due. It's
The yarn's
a brilliant.
beautiful. It's Nicole C. Mendez is the yarn, and it's on her soft sock. It's an 80/20, but it's very plump. It's gorgeous. And this is Love is in the Air as this colourway.
And of course, the pattern is Hermione's Everyday
Mine is
Socks,
every day.
which are just amazing.
Well, they are, aren't they? You know, there's no two ways about that.
And what is nice for me to now be able to say is, prior to me casting these on, you always have an expectation in your mind that they're going to be harder than they are. And I think I always thought I couldn't knit a pair of Hermione's Everyday Socks because it'll be too hard. Well, I couldn't be more wrong.
Yeah.
Couldn't be more wrong. So, you know, if you haven't knit these and you're a sock knitter or you fancy giving socks a go, I would say go and do it. For the sole reason that, you know, we talk so often about patterns that really sing. And this one does, you know. It's so nice now to be able to knit it and not have to look. Through that one, I did keep having to remind myself.
Check the pattern.
Which is silly, because it's not difficult.
You can see what you've done. You can follow it.
You know, the first time you do something, you're always second guessing yourself and making sure, especially with fingering weight, I wouldn't want to make a mistake with fingering weight. The only thing that I struggled with, was the picking up of those stitches.
Oh, because it's a garter edged, and you'd never done that before, I don't think, had you?
I mean, it is lovely. You know, it is lovely.
But it does look completely different to what you're used to seeing.
Yeah.
I think that's the...
Yeah, and I seem to have... You picked up one side for me,
Yeah.
and I picked up the other side, and I think I ended up with a few more stitches.
Well, what I said to you was, I said you should look back on Erica's, it's obviously Hermione's Everyday is Erica Luda's pattern. And a little while ago on her Instagram, she did a series of little videos on how she picked up the stitches on the side, and they were brilliant. And I went and watched them so I could see exactly which, you know, garter little, you know, bump that she went into. It's a little while ago back on her feed, but it should still be there.
Maybe I'll do that for this next one. But I'm about halfway down the leg anyway, so a little bit more to go on the leg before I do the heel flap. And then I think I will be taking a look at Erica's little videos. I really do benefit from... I'm a watch and do.
A visual learner, do you mean?
I like to watch and do.
Yeah, you're a visual learner.
Yeah, rather than watch and then do. I like to watch and do at the same time. So I'm following along.
You prefer a video to like a written instruction,
Oh,
don't
yeah.
you? Yeah.
Yeah,
I think
definitely.
most people do, to be fair. I watched There's like little clips, I think there's about 4 of them. So I'll watch the first one, right, I did that. I watched the second one, and I did that. So yeah, it's probably the same way as you. I'm continuing on with my accidental blanket.
That sounds like you sneezed it out.
I know, yeah. This is using my Stitching Time pattern, which came out recently. And if you remember, I did a little block to just do one of the video tutorials, and I seemed to really enjoy it, so I just thought to carry on and do a blanket. So I've done another block.
You sound surprised that you really enjoyed it.
No, I think it's just because I was doing it for a purpose. I was
Right.
doing it for the actual, tutorial. So I just saw it as a work exercise, if you like. And I just expected to do that one block, which was this one, just to demonstrate how you pick up for all the borders. When I'd done it, I just thought, oh, that's really nice. Maybe I'll do another one. So I did another one, which was this neutral themed one. And then I've done another one. And so I thought, right, well, what I should do is actually start now in the sort of top corner. So this one will be in the top corner. You can see we've got bigger borders on the top and on the side. So this is in the top whatever hand corner. I can't do it when it's all backwards. And this one's obviously blue themed. Isn't it pretty? And I do like it with the crisp white border as well. I'm just using Cascade Heritage in white, I believe. It's the one that's properly white. There's one that I've used for another blanket in the past called Snow. I don't know if this is the Snow one or if this is... I don't think this is Snow. It's whichever one looks bright white, it's that one. And I've got 2 skeins of this, so I'm hoping that's enough, but I can always pick up another one. So I did this lovely blue one, and I used... This one was my yarn from the advent calendar that I did last year. This one was the Hedgerow yarns, I believe. This one was Kelly Lay's Lay Family yarn. That was a little mini from a swap that I did with Sarah. And then this one was... What was that one? Gosh, I can't remember. That was in a mini with a little set as well. I can't remember what that one was, but it's all these lovely blues. So I've done another one. And my next one, I'm kind of theming them, if you've noticed. This one's blues, this one's kind of pinks and purples, really, that one. This one's a neutral one. And my next one I think is going to be purple, so I pulled out some yarns. This one is one that I dyed recently in a mini set, so I've got that one. This one is a Hedgerow yarns, I think. It's either Hedgerow or Fondant Fibre, I can't remember which, but that's like nice mauvey purples. And then I've got this one which came out of my advent calendar, which is like a lilac with then shots of pink and a dark purple that nearly went in my tea. And then the last one I've got is this one, which was in the little advent calendar swap that I did with Sarah last year. And it's Martin's Lab, and it's such a beautiful purple. Look at that. Isn't that a gorgeous purple?
Yeah.
And it's a single ply. I do love a single ply, actually. But that's such a beautiful purple. So those are the 4 that I'm going to do next, is in a purple block.
Do you remember the first blanket that you ever knit?
First blanket I ever knit. Well, it might have been crocheted, actually.
Right.
I did a Flowers in the Snow crochet blanket. If you'll know that pattern, I'm sure everyone. It's a free pattern, I believe. I did it with King Cole Merino DK, the superwash one, ages and ages ago. It's upstairs, and do you know what? I've never used it. I don't know why. I was thinking of giving it to my mum, actually, because it's like all sort of purpley colours and it's really pretty. But I think that's the first one I ever did, and that was a crochet blanket.
So you did that first crochet blanket, and do you think there was a big amount of time between you then doing a knitted blanket?
Probably, yeah, probably.
So a crochet blanket didn't start off your passion for...
No, I don't think so, because I think initially I thought of blankets being more practical to be crocheted because it's quicker, isn't it? It's a lot quicker to crochet a blanket. Don't think it entered my head that I could knit a blanket.
I just wonder at what stage did that feeling that you get whenever you knit a blanket now start? Because you love it so much.
It was probably when I started doing a mitered square blanket, and if you remember, that turned into that gigantic cushion which we still use, and that's upstairs. So that was probably the first knitted blanket that didn't actually end up as a blanket. And I think the reason that one never made it to a full blanket is I just got a bit tired of doing it, because it got to such a size that I just found it a bit unwieldy to work on, which is why then I went on and did the Stitch in Time one, because it's just it's the blocks, and I just found that more satisfying.
So
And
doing a mitered square blanket then probably is the moment where you were like, yes,
I'd say
this
so.
is for me.
I'd say so.
But you thought, but it's not quite for me. I need to make a couple of little changes.
Yeah.
You made those changes, and now that's got you to the point where. Is there anything about knitting these that you dislike?
No. No,
So-
I even love, I know some people don't enjoy seaming. I really enjoy the seaming. I ain't got a problem at all in seaming.
So you would.
Because it's just something different to do, isn't it? And you're nearing the end and it's exciting. And
Could you just knit blankets all day?
yes, I could. Yeah,
And-
I don't know what that says about me. Blankets and socks.
It doesn't say anything about you because
I would knit blankets and socks all day long.
And I'd
be
knit garments all day.
And be very happy.
and I'd be happy too.
And I think that's why I love designing socks so much.
Right.
Because it's definitely my favourite thing. Socks and blankets, which now I've done, 2 blanket designs and quite a few sock patterns now.
So the question I suppose is, and I suppose it's an obvious answer, but what is it that you love about knitting these so much? Is it the using of lots of different colours?
Yes. I like, oh, I've got another one of these on the go as well, haven't I? I've got the movie blanket on the go, which I do need to get back to. I've only got 7 more blocks to do, so I really need to get on with that.
7 more little blocks?
No, they're bigger. They're 9.
Oh, right, okay.
They're 9 square blocks.
So 7 more 9 square blocks?
Yeah. What?
That went from, I thought you said, I've only got 7 more blocks to do.
Right.
I'm thinking, oh, she's just got 7 of these to knit.
They're not blocks. The
okay.
finished thing is a block. These are squares within the block.
You see, that might be another reason why it's cool, because you can say a block, it doesn't sound like much.
No.
But actually, it's a little bit.
Well, these ones with only 4 squares in don't take long at all. You know, I can get one done in a couple of days, really, if it's the only thing I'm knitting. It's because you can play around with colour, and I love doing that.
Yeah.
It's quick.
Yeah.
It's a very quick gratification process. You're not waiting for ages and ages to get that finished thing, which is the reason I don't really like knitting garments.
Yeah.
I like to knit something, be enthusiastic about it, have it finished, and move on to the next thing.
And then move on.
You can absolutely do that with these, because you just move on to the next block and you get to
Cool.
pick a whole host of other pretty colours. So,
And that's what I love about knitting so much.
yeah.
It really does have the ability to engage whatever type of brain that you have.
It's true, yeah.
And,
yeah,
you know,
that's true.
That is a pretty amazing art form, I think.
Hmm.
Well, I must not drop a stitch, but I'm going to...
Finish your row.
No, because I'm too
He
excited.
never lets me knit on his things.
No, I don't. I
Never.
blooming well don't.
I'll say to him, I'll just do that bit for you if you don't want. No, I'm doing it.
That's not because I have a problem with Kay's knitting.
It's anybody.
Of
He
course.
wouldn't let anybody touch it.
And that isn't because I have a problem with your knitting. All your knitting is lovely. I would disengage with the project if I hadn't done it all.
Right.
If you do some of it, I haven't done it and I'm not interested anymore. A bit like, I need to make a decision about that sock which you used for doing a heel turn tutorial, because I wasn't happy. It was the dark side and the light yarn.
Oh gosh, I'd forgotten
And
about
it's
that.
just gone away.
Just rip it
And
out.
it's just, well, we'll talk about it because it's lovely yarn.
It's sport weight. We can use it for something else.
It's lovely yarn though, and I want to knit something with it. I've done loads on these.
Look at that.
Look at it.
Ooh.
I've done all the decreases and all the increases. And unlike on the Irish coffee, these were decreases and increases that were actually meant to happen.
Gosh, let me see. That's got to be nearly long enough, hasn't it?
Well, look, I've just finished doing the shaping. So
Right.
where does the shaping go without that?
It's there.
Just
You
sounds
can
wrong.
see the shape.
Yes,
in
I know.
there.
Where does it go on your body?
Well,
Yes.
you know, it goes in and then out, doesn't it? I'm just going to measure it against. You see, it's not a bad length now, but what does the pattern say to do?
But no, we have to ignore the pattern because the pattern, I've knit longer because you told me to.
Yes,
Because we
that's
looked
right.
at it.
'Cause
You
I
want to have a
wanted it
long
more-
body.
Yes.
So, you know.
Oh my goodness, isn't it lovely?
Yes.
Look how much more of it there is, though, because the last time I held it up like this, it was nowhere near that long, was it?
I've been knitting like a demon.
Isn't it beautiful? Everybody wants to have a look. Oh, look at that.
The question that we have to ask ourselves now, Kate, is how long do you want me to go? Because we can't look at the pattern. Because if I look at the pattern, then...
Oh, I need to know, does the pattern just say now knit straight until a certain length, or...
The pattern says knit straight until you are 16 inches from the cast on edge.
We need to measure it then, don't we?
Yeah, well, we don't need to do that now.
Well, yeah, we just need an idea on the
Yeah.
size, because, yeah, I would want it a bit longer, but not...
'Cause
I don't want it dress length or anything like that.
Because I deliberately did the bottom longer.
Yeah.
I didn't start the decreases until a little bit later.
So that it sits further down. Because I don't like jumpers that hit me
On
sort
the hip.
of mid-bum. Yeah.
Yeah.
I like them to be a bit longer than that.
Yeah. So we're
Yeah.
probably talking maybe 18 or 19 inches from
Well,
the
I
cast
don't
on
know.
edge.
I'd need to look at it.
I
But,
would guess. If it was
I mean,
saying
that's-
16.
Isn't it gorgeous, though?
And you know what's been so interesting about
It's a
this?
lovely weight.
Yeah. Well, it is. You know, it's reminiscent of the one you've knit me because it's
Yeah,
obviously the same yarn.
it's the same yarn.
What's so lovely about it is you feel it and you think, oh, perhaps it's going to be a bit too weighty, but it isn't because it just feels like someone's just hugging you.
No, I don't. And I'm going to talk about the weight of things actually with one of my finished objects. I like something to have a bit of weight to it.
Because it feels when I've got that top on,
Yeah.
I feel like I'm being hugged, and that's a lovely thing.
Oh, it's lovely. Wait
Now-
till your mum sees this.
Yeah, still blooming woman.
Colour
What's so
is
interesting?
fantastic. I just love the colour. It's such a happy colour, isn't it?
Is when you look at these. Oh, that sounds wrong. When you look at.
I shall move it away from me and then you can say that.
When you look at these, I feel like someone who works in a dress shop. When you look at these cables,
Yeah.
you know, they are quite complex, but I've just been doing
gorgeous.
a cabling
I'm
tutorial.
going to wear it Christmas Day at
Yes,
at your mum's
yes.
this year.
I've just been doing a cabling tutorial. I'm midway through it, actually. The final part comes out next week. And the cables in that tutorial, and this is the reason why I wanted to do it, they're more challenging than any of the cables in here.
Yeah.
Because you've got, what do you call it when you're cabling with two needles? Is it just cabling with two needles?
It's when you've got...
Cables crossing over.
So
But it
what?
isn't.
So
It-
you've
but it
got
isn't 'cause
a
these
cable
cross over.
needle at the front and one at the back.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean that's just a more complex cable. I'm
Yeah.
not sure it's called anything in
So
particular.
this is the reason why I was so keen to do this cabling tutorial series, because you know me, when I do something, I want to take it to the farthest lengths I can so that I can learn the maximum amount that I can. And, you know, it's so interesting. And the point of me saying this is you look at that and you think, I mean, it looks quite complex. Does it or not? Not
No,
really.
well, I mean, to a non-knitter, yes.
Oh,
I'm,
right,
I'm
okay.
sure. No,
So I'll shut up, everybody. Because everyone out there's a knitter. Oh no, there's some fellas out there.
you know what I mean when I say that. I think to someone in the know, they would look at it and think that's absolutely beautiful. But I don't think they would think it was out of their abilities. Whereas a non-knitter might look at that and think, oh my word, that's amazing. How did you do that?
Well, prior to me knitting this jumper, I would have looked at that and gone, there's no way I could do
Yeah.
this. Because it looks too complicated with all of this business going on and this business here and the tight one on the side.
But when
Well-
you break it down, I don't think
Yeah.
it's not.
It's not difficult. It's really not difficult at all. And it's just great fun. It looks great.
It looks amazing.
Go and knit one.
I can't wait to have it. I'm so excited. I think it'd look lovely with a little, like a bright white shirt collar just peeking out at the top. I think that.
Which is your favourite bit?
I think it's the central
Yes,
panel.
mine too.
Well, actually, I say that, but then I do love this super tight cable here. I think
Yeah.
that's so pretty. And you must cable every other row with that, do you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Whereas a cable, normally you have like a gap between, don't you, the crossovers.
Yeah.
I love how it feels as well. It's got a great texture.
It's a lovely...
It's very tactile, though.
No, it is. It's
People are going to be stroking me when I wear that.
Hopefully not where I was. It's a lovely, lovely thing to knit. and I couldn't recommend it more, to be honest. And it does make me want to...
What are the sleeves like? Are they plain or have they got something going on?
I think they're plain, and I think we said we might just put something in.
Oh, right, okay.
To
We
make
could just add one of these cables in or something. That would pull the fabric in though, so you need to be careful.
Oh, yeah, that's true. So it might not work.
So maybe we'll just
Maybe
have
we'll
to
just
do
knit
them
it straight.
plain.
That's fine. I wouldn't want
I
to...
say we. I'm
wouldn't want
certainly
to
not
miss it.
knitting those sleeves.
I suppose the beauty of a sleeve, though, is if you mess it up, you could just knit another.
If you want to do that.
But isn't that cool?
I know people have messed up sleeves and had to knit 3 effectively, which... And I think, do you knit the sleeves separately, don't you, and then attach it all?
Yeah.
So you could just knit the sleeves on DPNs because you enjoy DPNs, don't you?
I do.
It's just like a super long sock with some increases.
It is, of course, the Samantha, and that is not my Samantha bag. That is
What is
Hermione's
going on?
everyday bag.
You've got...
It's the Samantha, and it's by Amy Miller, and the yarn is, of course, Drops, isn't it?
It's Drops Alaska.
Drops Alaska, and I'd like to
Oh,
tell you...
there is something on the sleeve.
Oh, excitement!
Look, there's totally a cable.
What we said. It's what we said.
It's this bit and this bit.
Excellent.
Oh,
So,
how excited are we now? Look,
I'm
there
going
it
to
is.
love knitting the
Can you
sleeve.
see the sleeve?
And I'd like to tell you about, so there's the lovely yarn. I'd like to tell you about a technique which I think is the greatest thing in the world. I'm even going to go further than the knitting world. It is the greatest thing in the world.
Really?
Yes, and that is split splicing.
Oh, yes.
Split splicing. You could call it split splicing because you do sort of have to split it up and stuff. Do you know what? I was nervous. I was nervous about doing it because, you know, you look at it and you think, that's magic. How does that work? I'm going to mess it up. Well, the first time you do it, you know, it's like, this is how it should be. You know, getting rid of all those ends and all the holes which were in the Irish coffee, which you so brilliantly sealed up for me. You know, it's just genius. So, you know, knitting with this lovely yarn with no ends to weave in, it is just perfection. So that is my Samantha.
It's not what we think at all. You pick up stitches.
All right. Okay. Well, I didn't have any opinion. I was just following what you were saying. I just...
You must then, in that case...
cross that bridge as I get to it. Oh, yes. So that is my lovely Samantha. And I'm really motoring, actually, with this now, which is good. But I suspect I'm going to hit, not a roadblock, but it's going to start to get more complex fairly soon because it'll be time to split front and back. It's time for us to find out what else is on your needles.
I've got more than one other thing, but I've got one other thing to talk about today. This initially started out as a hat, and when you watch the New Adventures episode, you'll see that I'm knitting a hat, and I mention it very briefly, but Dan cut that bit apparently, so you're absolutely fine. You won't see me knitting this, but it did start as a hat. I dyed up some yarn. I just had this hankering. It's pink again, everybody. It is the pink show.
Well, it is. We said at the start, this was our CSI Miami homage, and we shall continue it. That is a different type of pink, though.
It is a different type of pink.
What type of pink is that?
It's more of a salmon pink.
I'm glad you said that. I was going to say it looked fishy. But you know what I mean? Like prawny.
It's like your...
Salmony.
No. But I just had this hankering to knit a pink hat. So I went through my stash, I couldn't find anything suitable, so I just thought, you know what, I'll dye up some, and I'm lucky that I can do that. I know that. But I had 2 skeins of DK weight in my stash, in my dyeing stash that I hadn't dyed up. And this is an MCN base, merino cashmere nylon. It's super lovely. DK, I know, you see, that would have fit you. It was ginormous. And I cast on for a hat, and I cast on for it's a free pattern. It's called Tied Knots by Justina Lukowska. And it's this one. There's only one size in it. It's just, it's a free pattern, so there's just the one size. And when it's DK, and I've got DK, and when I cast on, I thought, gosh, that seems really big. You cast on it's a free pattern, so it was 120 stitches, did a load of ribbing, and then you increased to 130 stitches. And yes, it's cables, so that obviously draws in the fabric. But when I was knitting the rib, I just thought, this seems really big, 120 stitches on DK. And I just had a gut feeling that it seemed a little bit big. So I thought, I'm not going to carry on with that. So I'm knitting something else with the yarn instead, but I kept the little sort of cast on, and it does seem a bit ginormous. I mean, I know I'm stretching that out more than it would stretch if it was an actual hat, but it just seemed like a big cast on number. You know, maybe I'd knit it with sport weight actually, that might work a bit better for me. But so I rethunk it, if that's the word, and I thought, well, I should really carry on with my Mitmas mission, and I've got something in finished objects to show you. But I thought, right, okay, I'm going to use that lovely pink yarn. And then I was tidying out my stash the other day and I came across a ball of Kid Silk Haze. Yes, I'm doubling with Kid Silk Haze.
That's a great idea. You should do that more often.
He makes fun of me every time I do this.
I think it's superb.
So I'm knitting a pair of mittens with this yarn that I dyed. It's a tonal, but there is tiny little specks of purple in there. I don't know if you can see any of those little specks. Why are you smiling so inanely like that?
Because I love you.
There'll be a reason. I can't think what it is at the moment. But I used two colours. I used one of my favourite pinks, but then I added in like a corally colour into the dye bath because I wanted it to be more of a salmony sort of pink. And I think it came out super pretty. It's really lovely, isn't it?
It is.
So I've got that, and I've got a skein of this Kid Silk Haze, which I believe is the Grace colourway. It's just this lovely pale pink. It's shade 580 of Rowan Kid Silk Haze. And the two together, I thought, oh, that'll be so fluffy and lovely for a pair of mittens. So I cast those on just last night. And I'm using the Tin Can Knits pattern, which again is free. It's called the World's Simplest Mittens. Basically, it's designed for really any weight of yarn from fingering. It goes fingering, DK, worsted and chunky, and it gives you gauges and needle sizes and stitch counts for all of those weights for lots of sizes. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, there's 5 sizes. I'm doing the third size, which is an adult small, but my yarn, because I'm doubling it with the Kid Silk Haze, I don't think it's really quite a worsted. I think it's more like a heavy DK. So I thought if I do a small women's size, small ladies size, that should come out. It should fit a number of people, whoever gets this in the end. And I've just finished the cuff. I really like that it's a nice long cuff. Look how, can you see, if I hold it like that, can you see how fluffy it is? Oh, it's so fun. It's like a cloud, it's like a mitten cloud. So I've just finished the cuff and I actually need to order a set of DPNs. I've been using DPNs for all of the mittens I've been making actually and really enjoying it. But I went through all of my DPNs last night. They're just in this huge tin. They're just not organised, and I end up having to use the sizey thing to find the right size, because obviously the wooden ones as well, the sizes rub off, and I don't put them back in the packets, I just fling them in. I know what you're all saying. So I cast on with 3.5mm, and I'm going to go up to a 4mm, but I didn't have a 4mm. I went through all of them. I got 3.75, I got 4.5, hadn't got 4. So I'm going to order some 4s today, and then I can carry on with this. It'll only take a day or two for them to arrive. And then I can carry on. But I've put this over my hand and it fits nicely. It's nice and snug around my wrist. And, I can get it on there, no problem. So I think that size is okay. Yeah. My hands are on the small size, but even so, there'll be somebody that they will fit. Yeah. And they're just gorgeous. Your mum would love a pink mitten, wouldn't she? And trouble is,
I think she'd like to.
Yes. I'll do the other one. Yeah, you're right.
Merry Christmas.
Here's a pink mitten.
And I think I might have just given away what you're getting for your birthday.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, you can have the other one tomorrow when it's your birthday. Because Nana Wendy's birthday is the day after Christmas.
We've got to do that. That'd be hilarious.
That's so funny. I should do that, shouldn't I?
That'd be hilarious.
Just wrap up one mitten.
Yeah, and put on the card. And we might have just given away what you're getting for your birthday.
That's so funny. She would laugh at it. You see, me, I'd be like, what? You're giving me one mitten? but that would make a laugh.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah. Oh, I love the fluff factor on this. It's just fun, isn't it?
Yeah.
And
What's funny is,
it isn't itchy at all, Kid Silk Haze.
What's funny is,
think.
after I've knit with any yarn, it looks like that.
Oh, because you pull on the yarn so much.
No, I'm not anymore, am I?
You're not as bad.
I'm changing.
No, you're not
Yes,
as bad.
with my rough hands.
Do you know what I'd love? In one of the Kim Hargreaves books, pattern books I've got, I think there's just like a simple cardigan that's just knit with Kid Silk Haze. And it's just like this light as a feather, simple sort of boyfriend style cardigan. And I just think, how lovely would that be, you know, in the summer, just to have a really light cardigan. But then I think I've got to knit it.
Or I do.
Oh, you wouldn't want to knit with that?
No.
Look how thin it is.
Well,
it's
no.
a lace weight.
I mean, look at it.
You
I can
wouldn't
barely
want-
see it.
I know, you wouldn't
How
want
could
to
I knit with it?
that. And I think the idea is with this that it's meant to be a super airy thing. I just think it would be lovely for summer, do you know? What? It's lace weight. It's lace weight,
It's
but
insane.
the fluff sort of makes you think that it's not really, you know, that it's a bit thicker than lace weight.
That's like
as you're
that.
knitting with it. Yeah, I know.
Do you know what would be fun? To knit with silk.
I've knit with silk.
Have you?
Yes.
Have you?
Yes. Briley's got a silk cowl.
My goodness.
She loves silk.
That's amazing.
It's very nice to knit with. There's no give in silk at all, though. It doesn't have any stretch.
Right.
Because it's like super drapey and it's just the nature of what it is. It's very strong. So
Yeah.
because of that, it doesn't have any give. It's like,
I'm knitting this.
I didn't know you'd got onto the colour work.
I'm knitting this, mon ami.
I've got the other one here, actually, just so
This is,
see.
and the colour of that, it's like a purple.
It is, it's aubergine, I would call it.
It's like an aubergine. Did you know the aubergine is a member of the deadly nightshade family?
We think.
And that's why they used to salt it. That's what the checkout girl at
Sainsbury's
told us yesterday.
Should be flattered you called her a girl. Yes, she did. I was buying an aubergine was in the shopping trolley, and
Made me want to put it back.
she told us that piece of information, which I thought was very interesting.
There's train tracks on my hat. Choo-choo.
I've got the other one here, actually.
It's super fun. It's super fun. This is, of course, Kay's final Platinum Collection pattern,
Yes.
which will be out later this year.
Yes.
And Kay knit one,
I knit one.
and now I'm test knitting it for her.
Well, you are effectively, aren't you?
I am.
Yeah.
And I'm loving it. It's really fun.
Are you?
Yes.
So
It's
he's
really
just
fun.
finished that little bottom section.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the yarn is just...
Can I have a look at it? Am I allowed?
Yeah. The yarn is super duper fun. Careful with the top bits. The yarn is super fun. And, you know, when I picked up this yarn, I thought it was blue. So,
Yeah,
you
it's
know,
not. It's...
to find out that it's in fact
Isn't
purple,
it beautiful colour?
it is.
They actually look like, the stitches look like little hearts there, don't they?
Yeah.
This looks good.
Yeah, I'm being trying
It
really
looks
hardest. I'd be trying my hardest.
good. It looks really good.
Because I'm rattling this off as I get ready to cast on my next colour work jumper.
Oh, yeah.
And that will be
This
actually...
is brilliant. It's a brilliant practice thing to do, isn't it?
It really is.
A colourwork hat like this. Doesn't
Yeah.
it look pretty? That purple and cream is just gorgeous.
And, you know, it's been such a sort of exciting voyage for me, this, because I sort of looked at it and I was so focused on the purpose of why I was doing it, which was to try and make my gauge better when I'm knitting colour work, that I didn't really stop and think about what I was knitting. And it was only when I started knitting the colour work that I stopped and started looking at it, and it was like, oh my goodness,
It's lovely.
this is
And
actually
it's-
really, really nice.
It's the Drops Alaska again,
is.
everyone, with like, you know, it's the only thing we ever knit with, it seems, these days.
Is this superwash?
No.
Well, okay. Oh, it's the same thing. I'm sorry.
It's not superwash.
Look,
or-
one of the things that I have to upskill myself on is notions and yarn.
Right. Well, you don't have to, do you?
No, I don't, so I'm not going to.
As long as you've got your tags, which he doesn't normally have.
long
But
as I've got
the purpley colour is colour 54. I can't remember the name of the colour, but it's 54, and then the cream is just 02.
I'm really, really looking forward to actually getting... And, of course, it has a name, and the name is...
Mon ami.
Which is, of course, what Hercule
He says it often.
Calls people.
Mon ami.
Yes. No, you're saying that as if it's some sort of...
No, he said that's how he says it to one of his friends.
Oh, does he?
In the film.
All right, my friend. My friend.
Monsieur Bouc. He says it to
Yes.
Monsieur Bouc.
But that is, of course, I mean, that
You
feels...
just try and put it on your head. My hair's funny today, so you put it on yours.
That feels like it would...
It might. Well, it's not far off. It's not far off fitting you. That looks pretty good.
The colour... You could really feel the tightness.
Oh yeah, I
as
know because
I got into the colour work.
Yes, yeah, I know. That's what you've gone up a needle
You
size.
just need to work on your gauge just a little bit.
I didn't go up a needle size for the colour work on this. That was my mistake, and it fits me fine. But I've got Dan to go up a needle size.
Good idea, because that's what I didn't do on the other one.
Yeah.
I just stayed. No, I was just on the big one the whole way through.
Right.
So I should have gone up another needle size. But it's all a learning. It's a learning curve, isn't it? You know, it's brand new technique, learning curve, and you know, I feel like I've learnt lots. This, you know, already feels.
It looks good.
And the gauge feels good, you know.
Yeah, I mean, it looks. If you look at my stitches and look at your stitches, yours look a bit bigger, don't they?
What does that mean?
No, that's good because it's a bigger needle size,
Oh, okay.
so that's what I wanted.
So it should do.
Yeah, I just forgot to change needle size, which
Right.
is silly of me.
You fool.
But it's totally fine because this one fits me, so...
Now, it's time for us to venture out. Yes, episode 2 of The New Adventures of the Bakery Bears is here. And today, we're heading to the place where we're going on holiday this year.
Lake District.
Yes.
Yes.
And this is a place which historically you haven't liked very much.
Correct.
And I've got to say, I think that trip goes some way towards dispelling the oppressive...
Yeah, because it wasn't...
It just shows you...
It was a different kind of area. We'd not been there before, had we?
It shows you that there's more to that area than big mountains that make you feel all small and oppressed. And I think, you know, where we're going is...
Yes,
is more
it
rolling.
definitely is, because the
Yeah.
view from the house that we've got is beautiful.
And I've
Down
got
to
to
a lake. I think it's Windermere that you
Right.
can see in the distance.
I've got to tell you, the one thing that I wanted this year from our summer holiday is rolling, not great big.
No, it
'Cause
definitely
last
looks
year,
rolling.
when we went to Scotland and I'm going out for a run,
it was
the first thing I
crazy.
had to do was run up a hill that
So steep.
you'd need to be in second gear in your car.
Yeah,
Never
it's
mind
really
running up
steep.
it. It was
It's
crazy.
really steep.
So,
No, it looks lovely where we're going.
it absolutely does. So, less talk, more action. And let's head out and discover the forgotten house of Lowther. About 160 years ago, Rupert and Helen Potter of South Kensington, London, were booking their summer holiday. For 15 years, their yearly vacation had been spent here at Dalgees on the River Tay in Scotland. But in the summer of 1887, there was a problem, because Dalgees was all booked up. So the Potters and their 2 children, rather disappointedly, made their way here. But this was a most fortunate stroke of serendipity. For their daughter, this landscape, and in fact all of us.
Because their daughter's name was Beatrix and her holiday would inspire the creation of Peter Rabbit.
Welcome to the Lake District, and these are the new adventures of the Bakery Bears. Our destination today is Lowther Castle, and in 1887 it was in the prime of its life. Now trust me when I tell you that this was the place to be. All the famous people of the day wanted to come here for a party. Now it's truly spectacular, isn't it? And it was all thanks to this man, Hugh Cecil Lowther. He was most certainly what I would call a bit of a dude. He had unexpectedly inherited Lowther Castle 5 years before the Potters had arrived in the Lake District, and he'd set out immediately to make a home that best reflected his personality.
Hugh bought chestnut horses and hundreds of beautiful carriages.
He had footmen, a groom of the chamber, a chamberlain, and a full-time master of music, which of course you need when you have 24 full-time musicians playing for you daily in these very rooms. Best of all, like so many landed gentry, he had inherited many great houses, and to move his household from place to place, he bought himself a special train. So it's no wonder the guest list at his parties was rather starry, from the poet William Wordsworth to the artist Turner to the kings and queens of Italy and Portugal. Kaiser Wilhelm II was probably Hugh's most famous guest. In fact, he came and visited here twice. And he left possibly some of the best gifts I think any visitor has ever left anyone. The first time he came, he had such a good time. He gave Hugh a Mercedes-Benz car. And if you think about when that was, this is the early 1900s, that was quite a gift because they were quite new things at that time. And the second time he came, he had such a good time. He effectively made him a knight, a German knight. He gave him the Order of the Prussian Crown, which is about as good a gift as I think anyone could leave. And all this was taking place just a few minutes' walk from the Potters' brand new holiday destination, right here on Lake Windermere. This was a place which utterly captivated their young daughter. Beatrix Potter loved botany, and this landscape is absolutely filled with it. But it was mushrooms she became fascinated by due to their colours. She loved to paint them, like this one, which she did in 1897. But it was the wildlife that became her passion, and throughout the 1890s, Beatrix and her brother began to paint the animals she saw in this beautiful landscape. To earn money, they turned the paintings into postcards, which they printed and sold. Over the coming years, whenever Beatrix would go on holiday, she would write little postcards and she would illustrate them and send them to all her friends. And in 1893, she was writing to Noel. That was the son of her governess who taught her when she was growing up. She completely ran out of things to say, so she wrote a little story about 4 little rabbits called Flopsy, Mopsy, Cottontail and Peter. Little did she know that she just planted the seed of her future career as an illustrator and author. For the next 7 years, Beatrix revised and expanded her letter into The Tale of Peter Rabbit. She took it to all the publishing houses of London, but they all refused her little bunny book. So in December of 1901, she decided to publish it at her own expense, and she gave it to all her friends and family. One of those friends was Hardwicke Rawnsley, who would later find fame as the founder of the National Trust. He loved it so much, he took it upon himself to find Beatrix a publisher. In October the following year, The Tale of Peter Rabbit was finally published, and it was an immediate international success. Now, her editor was Norman Warren, and they were keen to follow up the success of Peter Rabbit, so she looked, of course, to her postcards for inspiration, and there she found the stories that became The Wonderful Squirrel Nutkin and The Tailor of Gloucester.
Beatrix had started out in her literary career that would last the next 20 years. She brought out 2 or 3 books a year, from Jemima Puddleduck to Little Pig Robinson. Every one of them was adored, and in her success as an author, she also found love. For Beatrix and her editor Norman Warne had become engaged. They set about purchasing a holiday home nestled in the heart of the Lake District. This was a landscape that had given her everything, the inspiration for her books, and now a husband. But sadly, Norman and Beatrix were destined not to be. Norman died suddenly from leukemia, aged just 37. In memory of her fiancé, Beatrix completed the purchase of the holiday home they had chosen together. Hilltop House in near Surrey was now the home of Beatrix Potter, and in time, of course, it would become the fictional home of Tom Kitten, Jemima Puddleduck, Samuel Whiskers, and Pigling Bland.
As Beatrix moved into Hilltop Farm, the parties here at Lowther, and we're slap bang in the middle of the house now actually, the parties were getting wilder and way more extravagant. Hugh had even taken to dressing his many footmen, and he had loads of them, in royal yellow livery.
And here is one of those footman liveries. Can you imagine wearing this to work every day? Hugh Lowther loved the finer things in life. This was a man who was most certainly making the most of his inheritance.
But sadly, that inheritance was beginning to run out. A little bit like my legs. Can we stop and have a knit?
Yes, let's do it. So we have found the perfect spot for Kay to rest her worn-out legs and for us to have a knit. Snow.
There is snow.
I mean, this is the perfect knitting spot, Kay.
Yeah, it really is. Yeah, it's lovely.
Because that is the landscape that Beatrix Potter saved. Amazing. And that's an unexpected view.
It is. I didn't expect.
No.
It's like it's a valley, isn't it?
Yeah.
We're kind of at the. It dips down like that, and we can see the other side of the hills, and then there's a valley with a river running through it, and then we're at the top on the other side.
This is all right. There's not too many people around.
Not
do
just here.
Pass.
Yeah.
And you know, I suspect that this is a little table that isn't spotted by many people.
No. Yeah.
So this could be our table. What I found so interesting about this place was this land was settled by a Viking who left York, and he travelled over is after the Normans arrived. He was obviously frustrated that the Normans had come in and changed everything, so he thought, right, okay, I'm going to go over to the west coast and I'm going to find somewhere to live.
Right.
He was called Dolphin, and he came over here. And
West Coast?
This is the west coast.
We're not on the west coast.
We are.
How are we on the west coast?
Because we've travelled over to the west side of the country.
All right.
Yeah. Just
Didn't realise that.
10 minutes in that direction and we're at Cockermouth. Where, of course,
Really?
Yes. Where we went to... What was
It shows you how much attention I pay when we're in the car.
You were too focused on The Greatest Showman.
Can you tell he's making fun?
I wasn't. You were. And it was lovely. No. Now stop it. You're being mean. Now, we need to give this a score for knitability. And I'm feeling... I mean... Let me tell you this, it's better than York.
Oh, it's better than York. Although I can't knit very fast because my hands are very cold.
Oh, no.
Unfortunately. It's not freezing cold or anything today. I think it's probably about 10, 11 degrees, I'm guessing. But that's quite nippy, isn't it? There's a bit of a breeze, you know, to sort of sit and knit. But obviously that's no detriment to the knitability score. Obviously we can't down score it because of that.
On a summer day and on any other normal Easter, I'm smitten. And it's not just looking at you.
Oh, yeah, right.
So, genuinely, what do you think? No jive?
No jive? What does that mean?
That means only truths here.
When do I ever not tell the truth?
No, I know, I'm only joking.
I'll probably go for a 9, actually. I mean, it's pretty... Yeah, I mean, because there's, through the woods there's a little, like a little cafe. and there's loos. And,
I was about to say that. There is a toilet.
yeah.
And the cafe's really good. Hot soup.
Yeah.
Quesadillas.
Quesadilla?
Yeah.
What are they?
It's like a Mexican rolled up.
Oh, bleh.
Well, I would have eaten that.
All right.
Lovely looking.
Quesadillas, do you mean?
Sorry, I'm no good. I'm from Yorkshire. I'm not Mexican.
Well, so am I, but I still know it's quesadillas, isn't it?
It
Anyway.
is. No, you're right. But it does look genuinely good. And what with the loos there as well. Playground in the background.
Yeah.
Perfect spot.
Yeah.
So definitely a 9. Now, we've covered so much already, but still questions remain.
Like, how did Beatrix Potter single-handedly preserve the Lake District from big city development and the Industrial Revolution? And how did this gorgeous castle lose its roof?
We'll find out later when we see you for part 2.
Yes! Oh my goodness. Now, what I have to say that I love about Lowther Castle is, and I've seen pictures of the garden, and there's going to be some pictures of the garden in part 2.
Oh, in summer you mean?
Yeah, unfortunately, because at the time of year we've gone, the garden wasn't in full bloom. My goodness.
I'll have to go back.
It is...
Because it was about an hour and a quarter.
Well, forget that, we'll go on holiday.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
good. Yeah.
The garden is mind-blowing.
Oh, right.
Because they've got some really clever dude there who does the garden. Right. And actually, tip off, the next pop, we'll tell you when the next pop is at the end of the show, but we bought a book on the garden.
We did.
And the Gold Plus prize draw, with your random number prize draw every month for Gold and Platinum patrons, is a book and some seeds.
You could buy, in the gift shop there, you could buy little seed mixers that attract various different things, and I bought a mix that attracts bees specifically. It's like a wildflower mix, so we're going to put that with the book about the gardens, and that's going to be a lovely prize.
And it is a cool book.
Yeah.
It tells you all about the gardens. It's a nice little size as well, which is cool, so that'll be the prize, but we'll be drawing that on the next Patreon podcast, and we'll be telling you about that at the end of the show. But the garden looks stunning. I'm actually quite pleased though that we went when we went, because it made you focus on what was there. You weren't getting drawn into, oh, that's a beautiful flower, and that's a beautiful flower, because that ruin is breathtaking.
Yeah, I was just kind of sad that it is a ruin and it's
Yeah.
not still a grand house.
When you
I
consider-
think that's a real shame. I think it must have been an amazing house.
Well, you consider the roof came off in 1954.
Yeah, very Downton Abbey, I think.
And you've reminded me of the point I was going to make, and that is this. That house had the Chatsworth vibe.
It did, on a smaller scale.
Yeah.
Still a very grand house. But yeah, it
But
did have. But
I
I think
also
they're all
mean-
kind of built to a plan, aren't they?
They are built to a plan. The guy who built that house is the same guy who built the British Museum in London,
gosh,
Robert
right.
Smirke, and he
Right.
built an awful lot of the iconic buildings in London. But I don't just mean the house; I mean the vibe that they've set there now. And I think when the garden's in
Oh,
bloom, but granted,
It's
go on.
I thought it had a lovely, casual, relaxed feel
Everyone
about
was
it.
lovely and welcoming.
Yeah, the staff were all very pleasant. The facilities were great. There was a fantastic woodland castle playground thing, which Bryony really enjoyed.
It was good quality.
Yeah.
It's good quality. And of course, we've got part 2 to come. So don't miss that later on in the show. It's time for us to find out, Kay Jones, what's off your needles?
Well, I've spent much of the last couple of weeks getting my Bombini cowl all finished. And I've knit 2 more versions since we last saw you. And the pattern is now in test knitting. So hopefully it should be out before the next podcast. It should be out. And, I will post on Instagram as soon as it's up and available on Ravelry. But if you remember, this was my original one, which I knit in the Brooklyn Tweed Loft yarn.
And as you may well have
That was the
noticed
original.
at the start of the show, it looks awfully handsome on gentlemen.
Yeah, fits down.
Seriously,
looks
I'm
great.
not joking you.
So that's the first one.
I'd wear that. That would look
Yeah,
cool
yeah.
under my
It
Supergrass.
would. You can have it.
Supergrass?
Supergrass.
Super dry. That's a band. We are young, isn't it? We are free. We are.
Supergrass was a
Keep my
band, I
teeth
think.
nice and clean.
Oh, I don't know. So that was the first one that I knit. But I think I said in the last podcast that Brooklyn Tweed Loft is an expensive yarn. And I didn't want to restrict the pattern. You know, I wanted to put another option in there, which was a more affordable yarn, I think.
Do you know what I must say, actually, about that, is when I had that on, is it didn't feel like I was wearing wool.
No, do you know, and this is what I wanted to talk about, actually, with the weight of a yarn. It's obviously called loft for a reason, and it is very lofty. It's a very light yarn in terms of feel.
I didn't feel warm.
No.
So at this time of year...
To be honest, I'm undecided as to whether I like this yarn or not, in all honesty.
Granted, I only had it on for a couple of minutes, but I really liked it.
Oh, good. Well, I'm glad you like it. It's not itchy at all. It's not scratchy.
Not light and not warm.
It's very, very lightweight. So much so that when I wore this, I think I put this on actually when we were at Lowther. I took these with me to take some photos. And it was a bit chilly, so I thought, I'm going to stick one on now I've taken the photos. And I put this one on. And although it was warm, it was quite a breezy day, and it did blow up a lot. Because it's such a lightweight yarn. And I think for a cardigan or a jumper, that might be a brilliant thing, because you've got a nice warm garment, but it's very light to wear. But I don't know. I'm just undecided. And I love the colours.
I think what is so interesting about that yarn is all the things that you've just said mean that perhaps they've created a product which enables you to wear knitted garments at a time of year when you wouldn't normally.
Maybe so. But it is expensive. 50 grams of this yarn it's about £15 from Loop. That's, so 100 grams of yarn is £30. And I think that's very expensive. I think it's not as expensive in America, because obviously this is imported in. So in America, I don't imagine it would be as expensive as that. But I didn't look into that. So that was the first one I knit. So I knit this version. This one is knit with Drops Fable, which is cheap as chips, as I think we all know. And you can actually get, if you alternate the colours on the second cowl, so for example, you'd put the purple down here and this one up there, you can get 2 cowls out of 100 grams, so out of 2 50-gram balls, with this and with the drops. Now the drops is £2 a ball, so effectively this cost me £2 to make, whereas this was £15, so that's the difference really. So I used a really pretty mustard and a beige, and I liked the combination. I think that's really nice. I'll take it off so you can, I can show you a bit closer. I also wanted to test, the other reason I wanted to test a more standard sort of fingering weight is because this is classed as a fingering weight. I think it's more like a sport weight. It seems much thicker to me. And that, I think, is the loftiness of it. I would imagine it's a woolen spun yarn, this, which means that the fibres are spun in a different way, and it means that it's more poofy. Right. So I think when you're knitting with it, this felt heavier. So it was good to do a comparison of a normal fingering weight. And it did come out, if you can see, the loft one is slightly bigger. Not hugely so, but slightly bigger. But I wanted to be sure, because I knew that not everybody would want to knit it in the loft, I wanted to be sure that if you knit it in a standard sort of fingering weight, that you would still get a size that I wanted. And you do, it's perfectly lovely. So that's in the Fable, and I love how the stitch pattern worked in the Fable. It was lovely to knit with, didn't have a problem at all. So that was that one that I did. And then I also wanted to put in the option of a DK or worsted weight version. So I used, and I've used this before actually, and it's lovely yarn, I used Sublime Extra Fine Merino Worsted. I used this yarn. And I used 2 colours. I used Mole, M-O-L-E, and then Pale Pink. And this is the version, the worsted weight version, so I'll pop that one on.
It's like a mole and its nose.
Suppose it is, yeah.
His pinky nose.
I suppose it is.
I love moles.
So this was the worsted weight version. and I think it came out really nice.
Yes.
This one did use... You can't get 2 cowls of worsted weight out of 2 50-gram balls, just because, you know, it's a thicker yarn and it used more yarn. So you do need 2 50-gram balls to make 1 cowl if it's the worsted version. But it was very reasonable. I think it's $4.99 per ball. So under £10. So yeah, so I knit those 2 versions, wrote the pattern up, and it's now with Test Knitters. So.
And what I didn't anticipate, I honestly didn't anticipate that it would be something that I'd want to wear.
Yeah.
And it is.
Oh, right. Well, you can have that one if you want. You can have that one.
Well, I will.
Okay.
Thanks.
That's all right.
Because I don't want bulk back here.
No, and there's no... I mean, that's the good thing.
Because it just goes under your coat, doesn't it? And
just
then
goes under your coat.
weighs it down, and then it feels all... and I don't like it. So, you know, the things that I tend to like to wear are the things which...
Yeah, well, I like wearing this style because, like you say, you know, when you've got a coat on, you don't necessarily need a lot of bulk at the back because you've got the coat behind here, haven't you? But more often than not, your neck can be open, can't it? So that's why I like this style. But if you look at it that shape, you know, it's just this bit that's at the back of your neck. So there's really nothing bulk-wise at the back.
No.
And it just keeps your chest warm,
Yeah.
which was what I wanted it to do. So
Yeah. Have you finished anything else?
Oh, I have.
Ooh!
Yeah.
That's even more exciting.
I finished the mittens that I was knitting.
Oh, are they mitts?
They're mitts.
You told me off for that, didn't you?
They're mitts, because
Yes.
they're fingerless, yeah. Out of the onion yarn, the onion knit yarn, the nettle sock yarn, do you remember?
I do.
This one that I was using last time. And some lovely viewer, I knew someone would tell me that the translation for the colour is light pink, which makes complete sense. And I've finished the mitts. I knit the fingerless, the welted fingerless gloves by Church Mouse Yarns and Tees. But I did modify it quite a little bit. I'll put one on and then I'll tell you what I did. So this is a finished mitt, which I think is lovely. I love I can't turn my hand that way. Can you see there you go. Can you see
The detailing on the thumb.
Yeah, I think that's
clever.
really nice.
It is. It's making a feature out of something that you wouldn't expect.
Yeah, it's lovely and they're nice and snug. They washed really nice. What I found, I knit the thumb exactly as the pattern says. And in the pattern, it doesn't get you to take the stitches off, you know, and go back and knit the thumb afterwards. It actually gets you to sort of... It's a paid for pattern, so I don't want to say too much, but you basically do the thumb in a different way. And I did that, and I really didn't like it. The thumb was it was tight, and it was pulling all the stitches here. I just didn't like it at all. And plus it was like, it was further down your thumb, obviously, because you've not gone back and knit anymore. And I just didn't like it. And I slept on it for a night. I did it and slept on it. And I woke up the next morning, I thought, don't like that, I'm going to rip it out. So I pulled that out. And I did the thumb as I would normally do a fingerless mitt. So I put some stitches on hold and then I went back, knit a few rows. And then on the top as well here, the pattern you can see in the pattern, it just gets you to bind off. There's no detail at the top, it's just plain. And I didn't really like that either. So what I wanted to do was to reflect the welts that are in the cuff, because I think that's a lovely detail. So I added a welt up here at the top before I bound off, and then I just did one purl row up here on the thumb before I bound off, just to make it look like it's all related.
Yeah.
And I much prefer this. I think it's a better, aesthetically it looks better. I think it's a nicer fit. When I did it before, you know, when you move your thumb like that, it was pulling. It was pulling really badly. Even though these will be a gift, I just wasn't happy with that. The only thing I need to do now is just to add some buttons, because you can add a little button detail down the welts. So I will do that, I think. And the second one I knit in a day. I realised that I'd kind of neglected them. And then I just suddenly thought, oh, I'd like to get this finished for the podcast. So I knit the second one in a day. It was on Sunday, and I just thought, oh, I'm just going to knit that. And I just spent the day knitting the other one up. So you could certainly knit a pair of these up in a weekend, you know, if you needed a last-minute gift for someone. And the yarn was lovely. I loved the yarn. I used 60 grams. So I've got 2 20-gram balls left. So it's not quite enough to knit a pair of socks. But what I might do is keep the 2 20-gram balls, and then I think I'll buy another 2 skeins in a different colour. And then I'll have enough for sort of cuffs, heels and toes on a pair of socks with the pink. I think that would be lovely. Because I really loved the yarn, and it's lovely and soft. It washed up really nice. You can feel that there's a bit of something in there.
Yeah.
But it's certainly not, it's not scratchy.
It does look slightly different when you look at
And
it.
it's got a bit of a sheen. I think it's quite drapey.
Yeah.
I feel like they're quite drapey as well. But lovely. I really love the yarn. I'll definitely be buying more of it. It's really nice. So thank you to my friend who sent me that. I really enjoyed knitting them. So that's another pair for my Knitmas.
Lovely.
Yes.
Anything else?
Nope.
Cool.
I finished a little bit there.
You have. I'm not criticising. I've got nothing. Nothing from me.
Got nothing.
Nothing. It's time for us to get back to Lowther and finish off the story, Beatrix Potter
Yay.
and Hugh Lowther. And I think you would most certainly agree that Hugh Lowther was a total dude.
He was a bit of a dude.
I would, what I loved about...
I love all the yellow.
It's amazing. It's amazing. What I love about this guy
I
was...
love that yellow thing going on.
You know, at the time, when he was in the prime of his life, the cool people were going to his house for a party. So, you know, it's like, who's cool now? It'd be like Hugh Jackman coming to your house for a party.
Yeah.
It was, you know, the equivalent of that, because it was all poets and artists then, because there was obviously no movies. Yeah. So, you know, he clearly was a total dude. And I think that's the reason why it exudes a certain feel and eccentricity. And, you know, they've done their best there's a little museum area before you go in. It's only small, but, you know, they've done their best to try and show you a little bit of, you know, perhaps what it would have felt like. But I do totally concur with you. If that was still a house...
Oh, it'd be amazing.
My goodness.
And one of the little rooms that they kind of set out to look like how it would have looked. It's just a set, basically. But they painted it this bright yellow, the whole room.
Yeah.
And it just was... You can imagine, I mean, he had this thing for yellow, as you'll see.
Yeah.
And the uniforms as well, the servants' uniforms and butlers and things all had yellow in it. It must have been a real sight.
Absolutely. Let's get back and see some more.
Welcome to the stunning 17th century gardens here at Lowther Castle. Now, I have a feeling that Beatrix Potter would have loved it here. Until they were abandoned, these gardens had represented centuries of careful cultivation by successive generations of the Lowther family. Hugh Lowther adored it here, and you can imagine him walking through them with his wife Grace, listening to music played by his live-in orchestra. As the First World War arrived, Hugh Lowther rose to the occasion. He formed his own regiment called the Lonsdales, who fought valiantly at the Battle of the Somme. The Great War also inspired Hugh to help form the Blue Cross, an organisation set up specifically to care for injured or infirm animals, which exists to this day. But what of Beatrix, just down the road at Hilltop Farm? With the purchase of what turned out to be her first farm, Beatrix had become obsessed with the techniques of hill farming. With the help of a local solicitor, William Heelis, she started to expand her farmland. Beatrix passionately wanted to protect the old ways and the old breeds of animals that had lived on this land for generations. Herdwick sheep became a huge part of her life. Herdwick were the indigenous breed that thrived in this wonderful landscape, and Beatrix wanted to do everything she could to help them. So she bought a former deer park just down the road in Trout Beck. She restored its land and she filled it with thousands of Herdwick sheep. As the years progressed, Beatrix continued to buy farms and protect the old ways of working this land. And throughout that process, by her side was her solicitor, William Heelis. And would you believe it? Love blossomed. And just before the Great War broke out, they were married. Throughout the war and in the years that followed, Beatrix continued to write stories and to draw, although mostly for her own pleasure. Her books in the late 1920s included the semi-autobiographical The Fairy Caravan, a fanciful tale set in her beloved Troutbeck Fells. It was published only in the US during Potter's lifetime and not until 1952 in the UK. Sister Anne, Beatrix's version of the story of Bluebeard, was written especially for her American readers, but illustrated by Catherine Sturgis. As the years had passed, her eyesight had begun to fail. Drawing and painting became almost impossible. But as Beatrix's star rose, Lowther Castles was beginning to fade. The ravages of the Great War had changed the order of the world, and Hugh Lowther's life of opulence finally started to catch up with him. This is not a very clear picture, but you can make out the cars parked in front of Lowther Castle. These cars all belonged to Hugh, and they were all bright yellow. How do we know? Because one still exists. It was buying fleets of cars like this which had caused Hugh to spend all his inheritance, and he was now unable to cover his debts. By 1935 he could no longer afford to live at Lowther, so he moved into smaller accommodation nearby. In 1940 the castle was requisitioned for the Second World War effort, and the land was used for the development of tanks. As the war raged in Europe, everyone had to do their bit. I can't quite imagine what Beatrix, now in her 70s and living just down the road at Neosori, would have thought. A house once associated with opulence and extravagance was now a home to tanks and soldiers. On the one hand, I think she would have approved, but on the other, she would have realised a part of the landscape that she loved was disappearing forever. And Beatrix too was dying. After 30 books, with the proceeds spent on buying as much of the Lake District as she could to preserve and restore it, we lost her on the 22nd of December 1944. She left the majority of her properties to the National Trust, so all of us could come to the Lake District and enjoy them. But what of Lowther Castle? Well, after the war, it was returned to the Lowther family. Whilst they could not afford to live here, they desperately wanted to keep it. This was of course the land they had lived on since 1150, so there was only one option. A house this size generates huge local council tax bills, and after nearly 80 years of extravagant living under Hugh Lowther, there was simply not enough money to pay them. To avoid the huge taxes, which would have led to the sale of their family home, the Lowthers took the roof off their grand castle. And a house without a roof means no council tax. The parties were over, and Lowther Castle's life as a family home had come to an end. And I think it's time for us to stop for some lunch. I've got to say, this is a good place for a picnic.
Yeah.
It's a great place if you've forgotten your picnic.
Yeah.
So, as far as picnicability goes, the quality is good.
Yeah.
There's lots of choice.
Yeah.
There's non-spicy things.
Absolutely.
And the spicy things.
Yeah.
As we established with my poor Mexican pronunciation of... what was it?
Quesadillas.
Quesadillas. Okay, thank you. So, picnicability.
No. Oh, right. Okay, sorry, yes.
What is the score?
Well, it's going to be high again,
It is
isn't
going
it?
to be high.
Well, there's some flies.
I can
just
cope.
Discovered.
I can cope.
You know what we're like with
I'm
the flies.
half Mexican.
I'd probably go for 9 again.
I'm with you all the way.
Yeah.
9, most definitely.
Yeah.
And interestability.
Interestability. Well, we've been very interested, haven't we, Bryony?
Yeah.
Bryony's been kind of fascinated. She thought it looked like a fairy castle when we arrived, which I think it does, like a fairy tale castle. Very much does, actually.
I've got to agree with you completely. I've never been to somewhere like this before.
No.
It's sort of...
I was trying to think, does it remind me of anywhere that we've been previously? And
I tell you where it is similar to, just a tiny bit, is it Bolsover? The one in Derbyshire.
Have we been there?
We've not actually been there, we've driven past it.
How can it remind you of somewhere we've never been?
But we've driven past it and I've seen it.
Right.
And it looks similar.
Oh,
and
right.
It sort of fits into that Folly-esque
I know
type
what you
of
mean.
building.
Yeah.
Historically,
It's not like a medieval type castle.
And historically, we have ruled places like that out. But you know what? I think this has changed my opinion. Because that building is just stunning.
Yeah, it's very stunning.
And when you
nice.
combine the story of Beatrix Potter,
Yeah.
who I've not actually said, first name Helen,
Helen, I didn't know that either, actually.
named after her mum.
Yeah.
You know, when you combine the fact that we're slap bang in the middle of Beatrix Potter country, with snow on the hills,
Yeah.
what's the score?
Gosh, I'll probably go for a 9 again.
So it's
I'm
9s
all the
all round.
9s today, aren't I? Let's go with all the 9s.
So it's 27.
Yeah.
So it's second on. I
So
don't know.
we're batting away flies now.
I don't know where I'm going to put the leaderboard. If I lean back, I'll put the leaderboard in the middle. So it's slap bang underneath the lovely Clifford's Tower. And I've got to say, I would genuinely come back here again.
I would too.
On a warmer day.
On a warmer day, definitely. So Lowther Castle was lost.
It was 1954. They took off the roof. And I'll tell you why.
The family, now headed up by James Lowther, saw the house as an extravagance. The army had damaged the grounds and buildings during the war, and the castle had been empty for many years. James offered the castle as a gift to 3 local authorities, but all refused. At that time, the only option for large country houses was to open them to the public or demolish them. He could not afford to do the former, so he was forced to demolish the house. He left the shell of the castle intact as a silhouette. This forecourt became pig pens, and the concrete on the south lawns that the army had laid he used as a base for a broiler chicken factory. The remainder of the gardens was used as a timber plantation. But in the year 2000, a new generation of Lowthers desperately wanted to breathe life back into the shell of the old building. Working with the English Heritage, the Royal Horticultural Society and so many more, a plan was put in place to consolidate this ruin and restore the 50-acre garden, and then open the site to the public. On the 22nd of April 2011, Lowther Castle reopened. After 50 years of silence, life returned to this wonderful old family home. And development continues. This is the Lost Castle, the largest wooden playground in the country, made from 11 miles of sustainably sourced timber. Beatrix would most certainly have approved. And so our story has come to an end, from a house that saw royal parties, ruin and then rebirth, to a woman who continues to bring us all so much joy with her wonderful stories.
And he single-handedly did so much to secure the landscape of the Lake District.
And it's all because of that holiday in 1887. We'll see you next time for more new adventures. Lovely. Oh, yes. We had a marvellous time, actually.
Dan's
really
still
marvellous
eating
time.
chocolate, everybody.
This is the chocolate that we got in the shop, and the same year, founded in 2011. And you wonder if that's a link, because that's when, obviously, you've just found out, that's when the castle reopened, 2011.
Right.
And it's handcrafted chocolate.
It's
in
from this company.
Hand wrapped.
Crichton's, I think you would say.
It's very nice. Very nice. Really enjoyed
Handmade,
it.
hand wrapped. You can tell it. You know, it was in like a really pretty
Indie chocolate.
paper.
We love a bit of indie chocolate.
This one was milk chocolate with sea salt and salted caramel.
So, Lowther Castle, second on the list. 2 shows in, 2 really high scores. 28 for Clifford's Tower. And I think Clifford's Tower, York just pips it at the post because it's just such a vibrant place and there's so much choice for food and everything. But to be honest with you, granted we do go to York a lot, but for a day out, I think we'll be going to Louth. I'd put Louth right up there with Fountains.
Yeah, I mean, I'd definitely like to take a picnic next time because there were so many nice spots.
On a nice warm day.
Yeah, on a warmer day. It was quite chilly, which is... The weather's just been so bizarre because it's quite warm today, but...
Odd.
Yes.
The Gold Edition will be out soon. It's a special extended edition, and there's some really cool little extra snippets that we've popped in there. So look out for that later, Gold and Platinum patrons. But we will be back in episode 100 with our next new adventure, and that's where we'll be exploring the story of the Jersey Lily.
No idea what you're talking about.
That's a film star who used to live in Saltburn by the sea.
A film star?
Yes.
Called Jersey Lily?
She was nicknamed the Jersey Lily.
Oh, right. She was from Jersey?
Well, I don't know. We will find out. Right. And she was having a clandestine love affair with Edward, Queen Victoria's son. Edward I can't remember which one he was. But, he was a real sort of cad and a real interesting character. But he used to go to Saltburn.
Right.
It's just crazy. Because, of course, it's on the rail line. He could, catch straight up there, go see her, and he'd meet her. And we're going to go and explore the house where he used to go and meet her for little trysts.
Gosh,
nice.
That's exciting.
That's to come in episode 100. And next episode, we'll talk about... We've got something just very... very special planned, actually, for our 100th. It's not quite what you would expect.
No.
Something a little bit different. Yeah. And we'll tell you about that next time.
For our 100th episode.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. So we will... and the other thing that we'll tell you about next time, too, is last year we had the Summer of Socks. Let's not tell them yet.
Oh, we're not saying?
No, let's not say yet.
Oh, right.
They need to come back.
I thought we were saying this episode.
Well, I've got some ideas. You see, last year we had some lovely graphics for the Summer of Socks.
Oh, right.
And I think it would be nice when we say what it is for us to show the graphics too at the same time.
Right, okay.
Because I think we could seriously have some fun with those graphics if you think about it.
Yeah.
So rather than spoil the impact, come back next episode and we will tell you all about... Someone was just asking, actually, weren't they? I can't remember where it was, but they said, Summer of Socks, ?
Asking if we were going to do another Summer of Socks.
We're not.
It's not a Summer of Socks.
It's something
not
else.
Specifically, you could make it that if you wanted to, but...
there's certainly no ban on knitting socks.
No, absolutely not. But it'll have a different theme. It's very fun. It's very fun.
Yes.
And very broad spectrum of things.
Yes,
yeah,
absolutely. So come back next time and we'll tell you about that. And also as well next time, very exciting, we went to the Spring Into All show.
Oh, we did.
And we actually did some interviews. We thought it would be cool to have a chat with the people who organise it. And we thought it also would be cool to have a chat with a stallholder to see what stallholders sort of think about the show. And so next time we'll also be showing you that too. And that fits really nicely because I see some yarn over there, one of the people who we interviewed.
Yeah.
But before you show that, let's properly kick off the Endy Bits.
Endy Bits.
So why have you got that out?
Because I bought that.
All right.
And I just thought...
Lovely. Show it then.
It's pretty and I wanted
to... Well, show it.
Should we talk about the ongoing knit along first or...
Well, then show that because that links directly with the person who we interviewed.
Right. I didn't buy a lot actually at the show, but I said to Bryony, just if you see anything that you really love, then let me know and I'll get it for you and knit a pair of socks. And we went to this particular store, like Dan said. We interviewed the lady, the owner of this store. And I was looking at all these other different lovely colourways, but Bryony kept saying, no, I like that one, I like that one, I like that one. So I've got the one that she really liked. And the stall was truly hooked.
And the reason why I got so excited was because it was Verity that we had a lovely chat to.
We did have a lovely chat. And this colourway that I bought was Apple Blossom. It's on the Sparkle sock. And it's this gorgeous appley green, pale appley green, with all these beautiful speckles. Isn't that gorgeous? So this will be socks for Bryony at some point. It's
making me think of sweets from when I was a kid.
Is it really?
Yeah. I don't know why.
It's a gorgeous green. It's a lovely summery colour. I mean, maybe I'll take these away with us as summer holes because I think those speckles will be gorgeous.
Well,
lovely.
all the yarn on her stand looked amazing.
It did look beautiful.
And you're going to get to see it in great
Yeah,
detail
it
when we
did look
interview her.
beautiful.
So don't miss that
Really,
next time.
really, really lovely. So I bought that.
And she does ship worldwide, actually.
She does.
Miss Verity, so.
Yeah, she does. I visited a stand called Siobhan's Crafts.
Who actually is our Meet the Vendor in the next issue of Knitability.
Brilliant. She's a lovely, young, very pretty young lady. And she dyes up these super fun colourways. This is just a 50-gram skein of a 75-25 merino nylon, and it's in the unicorn colourway. I mean, my goodness, look at that. I couldn't resist it. I had no idea what I'm going to do with it. There would be enough to knit a pair of socks, you know, if I did contrast cuffs, heels and toes. So maybe I'll do that. But a lot of her colourways with this sort of bright, vibrant, fun, happy colours. And she's Siobhan's Crafts. And then the other thing I got was we visited Riverknits. Riverknits' stand. And this is a lovely lady, and she dyes all of her yarn on a barge.
Yeah.
You know, like on one of these narrow boats. I don't know how she does it. And I said to her, I don't know how you do it. You know, how do you even do this? And she's got a young child as well, I understand. So that makes it even more tricky. But she just said they dry it in front of they've got like a stove. So in the winter they dry it in front of the stove, and then she just hangs it outside on the side of the boat, I think. Which
She
is
posted
very
some pictures
cool.
on Instagram.
Yeah.
We're showing exactly
And
that.
that's at Riverknits. And she had this whole stand of all different coloured minis, 20-gram minis. So I just chose 6. You could get 6 for a certain price. And it's Blueface Leicester, 100% BFL, which is lovely. And I just chose these pretty pastel-y sort of colours. Aren't they gorgeous?
Yeah.
And I'm going to use these for my blanket, you know, my Stitching Time blanket, because, you know, whenever I do that's for the yellow one, a green one, a blue one, a pink one. I got 2 shades of pink, just because
You can never have too many shades of pink.
one's a more peachy colour, to be fair, rather than pink. So yeah, that was my purchases.
Beautiful.
We've got the Drippity Drop Knit Along is still going on till the end of April, so we've still got about 10 days to go, I think. So there's still enough time, even if you've not even cast a pair on yet. I think you could easily knit a pair of socks in 10 days if you put your mind to it, if you really wanted to. There's lots of finished entries already, so that's been really great. And what's been brilliant actually is I've had loads of private messages and Instagram messages from people who have really, really enjoyed the pattern and just think it's really pretty and think, it suits a variety of yarns. So, I mean, that's been really nice for me just to get that kind of feedback that so many of you are enjoying the pattern. So that's been lovely. Thank you to everybody who's taken the time to do that. So that knit along goes on till the end of April. I went over the prizes for that last time.
Yeah, don't worry.
Yeah, but I've since had a couple of other prize donations. Now, I may save these for our summer knit along, or I think that's probably what
because you had a good amount of prizes last time.
Yeah, I think there's compared to how many entries there are, there's plenty of prizes. Yeah. But I've had a pattern donation from lovely Madeline Windsor, and a sock club pattern as well from Mary, who is Lights On Ravelry, and it's the Pearl Kitty Sock Club. So thank you to those 2 lovely ladies, and I think I will keep those patterns as prizes for our summer knit along. And then the other prize I've had that I wanted to show you, and again I'm going to use this for the summer knit along, is I bought a bag from Leslie, who is Duckpool Lane on Etsy, and she sent me this bag as an extra, and I said, oh my goodness, can I use it as a prize? And she said, well, you can keep it if you want, or you can use it as a prize. And I said, oh, that's so kind. I said, but I would love to share it with other people if that's okay, because the one I bought is this one here actually. I saw this fabric, I just love it. I want to live in that cottage with the rabbits here and the birds and the trees. Isn't it just fantastic? I just love it. And it's a beautifully made bag and a very good price as well, I will say, because I know there's a lot of more expensive bag makers out there right now, and these are a great price and a brilliant product. So this will be a prize as well. So Leslie, thank you so much.
And we'll be getting to know Leslie a little bit better in issue 12 of Knitability.
Oh wow, fantastic, gosh. I didn't know that. It's like I engineered it, but I honestly didn't know that. And then I was going to, well, we can't talk about it. I was going to talk about the Summer Knit-along, but apparently I can't tell you about that yet.
Just come back next time. We'll tell you all about it. It's going to be super fun and it'll be worth waiting for.
I just wanted to talk about the next yarn update that I'll be having. It'll be on Saturday the 28th of April, usual time of 7 p.m. British summertime. And what I thought I would do for this update is I get a lot of requests very often on, you know, am I going to be doing a particular one of my Harry Potter colourways that I do. So what I thought I would do for this update is just, it will be purely Harry Potter colours. And I'm going to do a nice sized batch of each. So if you've been watching out for a particular Harry Potter colourway, then that might be a good date to put in your diary, just to have a look at the update. So I'll be doing After All This Time, which is the Snape colourway, Lupin, Dumbledore, Sirius. I'll be doing some of the Burrow and Molly Weasley sock sets, some Nocturne Alley. I've also already dyed up some Luna, so there'll be some Luna in there as well. There might be some Time Turner as well. So basically I'm going through all of my yarn recipe book, and any of the Harry Potter colourways that I've done previously, I'm doing a little batch of each, and they'll be going into that shop update. So again, that's 28th of April, Saturday, 7 p.m. British summertime.
Cool. So, the next pop will be on the 29th of April at 2 p.m. British Summer Time. So it'll be live in the Patrons Private Facebook group, and then it will be on Patreon about 48 hours after that. So I think that covers everything.
I think it does.
Thank you so much for watching. We'll be back in 2 weeks with the next in the Pudding Club, when we'll be making Winifred pudding.
Yeah.
We'll be at Spring into Wool, chatting to people.
Yeah, we'll have prizes for the knit-along because that will have finished by then, won't it?
And we'll also be talking all about whatever's going on this summer.
Will it have finished by then?
I have no idea.
Well, if it has. If not, obviously I won't. Excellent.
Cool. So thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you then.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Who's it sitting and knitting? It's Dan and Kay, the bakery bears. Enthusiasm's not quitting for Dan and Kay, the bakery bears. They'll take you to fabulous places, of which their favorites they'll share. You better buy a pattern and get yourself a bakery bear. You'll find yourself in a castle while watching the bakery bears. It never feels like a hassle to sit and watch the bakery bears. What's on your shelf or what's in your oven, or maybe a shawl you'll want to wear. So sit yourself right down and watch Dan and Kay,